This content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for personal health concerns. Have you ever looked in the mirror after a long night and noticed that your skin doesn't quite bounce back the way it used to? It is a moment many of us recognize, that subtle shift where the reflection feels slightly different, as if the landscape of your face is beginning to trace a new map. We often treat skin changes as purely cosmetic, yet what we are witnessing is a profound structural metamorphosis happening beneath the surface. You might be surprised to learn that by the age of 40, the average person may have already experienced a significant reduction in their natural collagen stores. Think of collagen as the internal scaffolding of your body. It is the dense, fibrous protein network that provides the structural integrity, firmness, and elasticity not just for your skin, but for your joints, tendons, and blood vessels. When this foundation begins to thin, the visible effects become undeniable. Fine lines deepen, skin loses its characteristic snap, and the overall volume we once took for granted begins to dissipate. It is important to understand that this is not a failure of your body, but rather a standard, programmed physiological process. Simultaneously, the enzymes that break down existing collagen fibers become more active. It is a dual-front challenge where production wanes while degradation accelerates. Many people feel a sense of frustration when creams and serums fail to provide the results they desire, but the reality is that topical applications often struggle to reach the deep dermal layers where this structural remodeling occurs. Understanding this, collagen cliff, requires us to look past the surface-level marketing and examine the biological mechanisms driving these changes. We are essentially watching a shift in our body's internal architecture. As we transition into the next phase of our discussion, we will examine the specific biological triggers that signal your body to hit the brakes on production, revealing the complex internal clock that dictates this inevitable change. To understand why those brakes are applied, we first need to visualize what is actually happening beneath the surface of your skin. Think of collagen not just as a buzzword in beauty, but as the foundational scaffolding of your entire physical self. From the resilience of your joints to the elasticity of your skin, this protein is the silent architect of your physical form. Deep within the second layer of your skin, the dermis, lies a bustling factory floor populated by specialized cells known as fibroblasts. Their sole mission is to synthesize and secrete pro-collagen molecules, which then assemble into sturdy, rope-like fibers. When you are younger, these builders are highly efficient, maintaining a dense, organized network that keeps tissues firm and supple. It is a constant, rhythmic process of creation and repair. Research suggests that as we navigate through our decades, the efficiency of these fibroblasts begins to wane. It is not necessarily that the factory shuts down entirely, but rather that the pace of production slows, and the quality of the output changes. This isn't a failure of the body, but rather a shift in biological priority. Think of it like a complex architectural project where the blueprints remain the same, but the supply chain begins to struggle with logistics. The fibroblasts receive signals to prioritize other bodily functions, or perhaps they encounter internal stressors that impede their output. Medical professionals observe that this internal degradation is a multifaceted process, influenced by a blend of genetic programming and the accumulation of environmental factors over time. It is a slow, quiet transition, yet it defines the texture and strength of our bodies as we evolve. Now that we have established how this structural foundation is built and maintained, we must pivot toward the external and internal disruptors that specifically interfere with these cellular builders, shedding light on the primary adversaries of your collagen health. To understand why our skin loses its resilience, we have to look at the cellular machinery that builds it. In our youth, these cells are industrious and highly responsive, constantly laying down a dense mesh of collagen fibers. Research suggests that this isn't just a random decline, it is a programmed shift in cellular behavior. Fibroblasts become less efficient at synthesizing new protein chains, and the ones they do produce often lack the structural integrity required to keep skin firm. Estrogen, for instance, has a direct influence on collagen metabolism. It is a profound shift, yet it is only one half of the equation. Ultraviolet radiation is arguably the most significant external antagonist to our collagen levels. When UVA and UVB rays penetrate the skin, they trigger the release of enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases. It is a form of accelerated wear and tear that occurs deep beneath the surface, often long before visible lines appear. The process known as glycation is a primary culprit here. These molecules are stiff and brittle, cross-linking with healthy collagen fibers and robbing them of their natural elasticity. Over time, this makes the skin's foundation become fragile, much like old parchment paper. By restricting blood flow and depleting the oxygen supplied to the dermal layer, cigarettes starve these hard-working fibroblasts of the nutrients they need to function. When you combine the natural deceleration of cellular activity with the constant assault from UV rays, dietary patterns, and environmental toxins, the cumulative impact on your structural protein becomes clear. Once we understand the nature of this interference, we can begin to investigate the specific pathways available to mitigate this damage and potentially restore a degree of balance to your skin's complex ecosystem. But how do you know when your body is actually signaling a deficit? While the internal decline of collagen is invisible to the naked eye, the external manifestations are often quite pronounced. The most common indicator is a shift in skin texture. You might notice a subtle loss of firmness, a phenomenon often described as skin laxity, where the skin no longer snaps back as readily as it once did. Beyond the complexion, your hair may provide another silent clue. Collagen is a key source of amino acids that your body uses to build keratin, the protein that makes up your strands. It is common for many individuals to notice that their hair feels finer or lacks its previous luster, which research suggests may be linked to the systemic reduction of these vital building blocks. Perhaps more pressing, however, is the impact on your mobility. When this internal infrastructure thins, you may experience persistent joint discomfort or stiffness, particularly after periods of inactivity or upon waking. Studies indicate that this is a frequent complaint as we age, often stemming from the gradual breakdown of the connective tissue that cushions our skeletal frame. This is because the wound healing process relies heavily on the rapid synthesis of new collagen to bridge the gap in damaged tissue. When your internal reserves are depleted, the body's repair timeline inevitably stretches. Your body is constantly communicating its internal status. The challenge lies in interpreting these signals correctly. By observing these changes, the sagging, the thinning, the stiffness, and the sluggish recovery, you gain a clearer picture of your current physiological baseline. To answer that, we must look closer at the specific lifestyle habits that act as the primary catalysts for this depletion. The good news is that while the natural decline of collagen is an inevitable part of human biology, we are not entirely passive observers in this process. Research suggests that by modifying your environment and your internal intake, you can effectively nudge your body's synthesis machinery toward a more resilient state. If you are looking for the gold standard in topical intervention, medical professionals consistently point toward retinoids. Derivatives of vitamin A, these compounds work by signaling your skin cells to accelerate turnover and, crucially, inhibiting the enzymes that break down existing collagen. Parallel to this, vitamin C serves as an indispensable cofactor. It is not merely an antioxidant that brightens the complexion, it is a chemical necessity for the stabilization of collagen molecules. Applying a stable, high-quality serum in the morning provides a localized boost, effectively acting as a shield against the oxidative stress that would otherwise degrade your structural proteins. Of course, all the serums in the world will struggle to overcome the daily bombardment of ultraviolet radiation. Exposure to UV light triggers the release of matrix metalloproteinases, enzymes that essentially chew through your collagen network. By prioritizing broad-spectrum sunscreen, you are not just preventing future damage, you are allowing your body's natural repair mechanisms to focus on restoration rather than constant, defensive cleanup. Collagen is composed primarily of specific amino acids like glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. While the body can synthesize some of these, consuming high-quality protein sources, or incorporating bone broths and collagen peptides, supplies a concentrated reservoir of these precursors. Pairing these with a diet rich in zinc and copper, which act as essential catalysts for the maturation of collagen fibers, creates a more favorable internal environment for maintenance. However, supporting your structural health requires more than just a list of ingredients. It demands a shift in how you view your daily habits. As we begin to understand how these external efforts harmonize with our internal requirements, we reach a point where we can finally address the most common misconceptions surrounding these strategies, and why some interventions are far more effective than others. Stepping beyond the habits of today, we find ourselves on the cusp of a new era in regenerative science. The horizon of collagen research is shifting away from simple supplementation towards sophisticated molecular signaling. Scientists are now investigating bio-stimulators, compounds designed to act as biological messengers that wake up dormant fibroblasts. Imagine these microscopic technicians not just providing the building blocks for tissue, but actively signaling your body to restart its internal assembly line. This focus on upregulation means we are moving toward therapies that encourage your cells to do the heavy lifting themselves, rather than relying solely on external inputs. Emerging clinical trials involving specific collagen peptides are also revealing that the sequence of amino acids matters just as much as the quantity. We are learning that certain peptide structures act like keys in a lock, triggering specific pathways that improve skin density and joint resilience in ways we previously thought were impossible once we passed a certain age. It is an optimistic prospect, suggesting that the decline in collagen production is not an inevitable fate, but a biological process we are increasingly capable of modulating. To synthesize what we have covered, consider these 3 pillars for your longevity toolkit. First, prioritize the protection of your existing infrastructure. Minimizing oxidative stress through sun avoidance and stable blood sugar management is far more effective than trying to repair damage after it has occurred. Second, focus on the bioavailability of your nutrition, emphasizing vitamin C and protein-rich sources that provide the necessary precursors for synthesis. Finally, remain open to the evolution of science, but stay grounded in the reality that consistent, long-term lifestyle choices will always outperform a quick-fix supplement. Your body is a dynamic system, and by aligning your daily habits with these biological truths, you provide the best possible environment for your cells to thrive. This content is for informational purposes only. If you found this information helpful, consider subscribing to follow our ongoing journey into the science of human longevity.